What's up, everyone? It's the Autistic Scyther here, and when it comes to Pokemon, there's one thing that I've noticed that I've seen everyone get excited about, and that's finding a shiny Pokemon. In fact, becoming a shiny hunter has become so well sought after and has become so popular that many people have essentially searched for have made a history of searching for shiny Pokemon no matter what, to the point that it's become kind of lackluster and lost its shine in recent generations. Now, I'm not a full-on shiny hunter, but I found a fair amount of shinies, mostly in my life. Most of them I enjoy, even though I'm either not that patient or I'm unlucky. But either way, I found a fair amount of shiny Pokemon that I enjoy. And the only way to showcase that is to create a countdown of my favorites. So that's what I'm gonna do. In this case, it's time to count down my top 10 favorite shiny Pokemon. Now, here's the thing. Out of all of these are all shiny Pokemon that I have captured in the past. And even though I don't have them anymore, I still remember them in my heart, and I really enjoy them. However, two in particular, I have not captured, but in fairness, I still like them no matter what. So, without further ado, let's get started. Starting off first at number 10, we have Go-Goat. Alright, when it comes down to characters that were one of the more surprising shinies I ever got, like ever last minute, was in my most recent playthrough of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And in all fairness, it was during like a surprise trade Nuzlocke of Scarlet and Violet. Granted, it's not the only shiny I ended up finding, because in fairness, when it comes down to it, I found a lot of shiny Pokemon that were mostly and possibly illegal shinies. I don't know why people would do that. Now, in all fairness, this one I actually found was a legit shiny. And in all fairness, this was actually pretty awesome, as I wasn't even looking for it. But as soon as I saw in training and gathering up materials to basically level up most of the Pokemon that I had for like further level caps, like the Fairy Team Starbase and beyond, I ended up coming across a swarm of Go-Goat, or in this case, an outbreak of Go-Goat. And as soon as I saw a shiny Go-Goat, my jaw dropped. And honestly, I was really surprised, to the point that I basically was freaking out over it. And honestly, even though I hadn't found either shiny Skittle or shiny Go-Goat before, ever since like Gen 6, I basically really love shiny Go-Goat's colors, as not only is the more lighter coloration in the fur and the leafy pattern just beautiful, but with the leaves the leaves are basically kind of like an early spring style color that almost like it seems like it's freshly blooming. Plus the plus the horns of Go-Go are basically basically like around a brilliant yellow color, which you gotta admit kind of reminds me of of when I actually had a bike, and specifically my last bike, which was a yellow and blue bike. So kind of has a little bit of a nostalgic feel for me when you think about it, as it reminds me of that. So I mean, simple reason, but like I say, I'm a simple guy. Moving on, next at number 9, we have the Chimchar line. Oh boy, speaking of my Pokemon Scarlet Surprise Trade Nuzlocke, I had previous, attempts at that before the entire... I had previous attempt at that, during my previous entry. And now that I think about it, I don't think the Go-Go was from that. But yeah, this was in one of my previous attempts. And remember when I said that most of those that I got, the shinies that I got in previous attempts were illegal shinies? Yeah, I have a hard time telling the difference between illegal shinies and legit shinies, so yeah, I really didn't know what was what until I noticed. That being said, when I eventually ended up getting a shiny Chimchar as a part of it, and honestly, while I believe it might have been a legal shiny, again, I really didn't know because it seemed like it was legal. But either way, I really love Chimchar's shiny since it goes from the standard reddish-orange flame coloration of its fur to a more pinkish coloration. Kind of like actual flames. And and this extends to its entire line, being Monferno and Infernape, as basically they add to that. Plus, when you consider the juxtaposition of its bright red booty, really kind of brings to mind an actual, either baboon or mandrill monkey, so there's that. And if you're wondering where it was, yeah, Nemona springing that surprise rival battle after the Medali Gym kinda ruined that one. So yeah, that one was disappointing. Wish you didn't, though. That's the thing. Moving on, next at number 8, we have Fido. Alright. On it, yeah. Speaking of shinies, when it comes down to it, sometimes early game Pokemon have interesting shinies, to say the least. And when it comes down to it, I really like a lot of the dog Pokemon and their shinies. I mean, granted, some kind of have, weird shinies, to say the least. I mean, looking at the Houndour line, as cool as they are, but others both look so majestic, as the Growlithe and Riolu lines and shinies both look almost heroic in terms of their golden coloration. Burfro looks like an actual black fur poodle. Looks like an actual poodle with black fur. And yeah, there are actually poodles with black fur. So it seemed realistic. And Poochyena had a nice dusky golden brown coloration that really fit with the idea that it's a hyena. Even Mightyena too. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect with Fido until I saw it shiny. And honestly, I was blown away, as Fido in its natural coloration looks like it's made out of actual bread dough. It's shiny. Okay, looks really fitting since it actually looks like fresh baked bread. And in fairness, I again wasn't sure I'd find something like this until I actually did before making it to the Elite Four. And yes, this was another Scarlet and Violet, the previous Scarlet and Violet and Pokemon Scarlet Surprise Raid Nuzlocke that I did. And I was actually surprised. Granted, I wish I had traded it away, but I'm not trading the bread dog for anything. Sorry, folks. Moving on next at number 7, we have Lycanroc. Speaking of dogs with amazing shinies, in fairness, I can actually now say that ever since Generation 7, I have used all 3 forms of Lycanroc. And keep in mind, I wanted to use Rockruff from the start when Sun and Moon was announced. When it was announced and revealed for Sun and Moon. Even Lycanroc. Unfortunately, I ended up getting Sun first, so I didn't have access to Midnight Form Lycanroc. And let's be real, I loved the whole werewolf idea. Now I actually used all 3 forms of light. I used Midday Form Lycanroc, Midnight Form Lycanroc, and as of Scarlet and Violet, during my Professor Oak's challenge of the game, in Pokemon Scarlet, I used the Dusk Form Lycanroc. And I can actually say, it was worth the entire wait. However, I actually ended up getting a shiny Midday Form Lycanroc during a Professor Oak's challenge of Sword and Shield, my Sword and Shield Professor Oak's challenge. Naturally from the Raid Den and challenge in Dynamax Adventures in Sword and Shield. And this was in Pokemon Swords DLC, Crown Tundra DLC, so I was actually surprised I was able to do that. But even with that, I was blown away with how beautiful Midday Form Lycanroc looked in its shiny form. And it's not only because of the fact that it looks like Tiger from Monster Rancher, if anyone else remembers that series. But even Dusk Form Lycanroc looks like that too, which is double the fun. But the biggest one actually comes courtesy of Midnight Form Lycanroc, which, I don't know why, but werewolves in the color dark blue and the dark blue coloration is a A-tier fit. I mean, it works for Weregarurumon, it works for John Talbane from Darkstalkers, and it definitely works for Midnight Form Lycanroc. just really says a lot. This will be continued in part 2.